proper carrying point. So know just about where you need to have that ladder for your height, your body type. Everybody's a little bit different. And then find firefighter's position on the same side for carrying. Slide that, when it talks about sliding that ladder out and finding your position to carry it, make sure your guys, if you're using more than one, make sure you're on the same side to carry it. And if you're using one person, kind of have that butt of the ladder, because we carry butt first, right? Butt first is down, that way you don't have an impeded view and you can kind of see what's going on. How are ground ladders mounted on an apparatus? So we talked about horizontal compartment, we talked about vertical exterior rack, we talked about the mechanical arm, and we also talked about the vertical interior compartment. So those are 4 ways. We have 2 of those. How are ground ladders mounted on your apparatus in your jurisdiction? We already talked about that. Mechanical arm and interior vertical compartment. So whenever we carry ladders, avoid obstructions. Avoid, like we think about obstructions, things of a privacy fence, shrubs, bushes, mailboxes, things that whenever you're carrying it, you might have to worry about going over something or going around something. Can you make that tight of a turn? Maintain situational awareness of other firefighters. Don't be the dude that swings the ladder around and you forgot that you have 8 foot of ladder sticking out behind you and you knock somebody upside the head. Hopefully it's not somebody with a white helmet, because that could go bad. Lift with your legs rather than your back. We talked about that. And then look ahead to scan for obstructions, people, and trip hazards. Okay. Like I said, keep that butt of the ladder down. Look for people. Look for obstructions. Look for trip hazards. Okay. Safety considerations for carrying ladders. Use appropriate number of personnel. Okay. So, 1 person right up here. That's just a regular, looks like it's probably a 10-foot roof ladder. This here looks like maybe a 24-foot extension. That right there. 28. Yeah, I heard it. And then there's just a fiberglass ladder, it looks like. Fiberglass is going to be a little bit heavier. Work and communicate as a team. Who's the guy that's in charge of making all the shots, calling all the shots, and carrying the ladder?
Similar.
Yep. Identify team leader. Carry roof ladders with hooks closed. Goes without saying. They're sharp. You don't want to do that. Carry ladders with the butt end first. Talk about whenever we get outside, putting that butt into the ground, raising, boom, up to the building we go. When performing one firefighter carry the forward end of the ladder below eye level. Carrying the forward end at eye level impedes the carrier's balance and visibility and increases the risk of the butt spur striking someone else on the head. So, carry him low so you can see. You carry him up high, you can hit somebody in the head or in the neck or back. What safety considered guidelines should be followed when carrying ground ladders? We talked about that. Use the right number of people. Carry it in a way that you can see. Look for obstructions. Look for things on the ground, trip hazards, things like that. Be aware of what you're swinging around behind you. Look for overhead obstructions. Describe the proper procedure for placing the ground ladder. This is objective number 3. You guys good? Any break? Good? All right. So observe and communicate. The presence of overhead electrical wires and obstructions. That's the key one. It's number 1 for a reason. Okay. And then ground conditions. Is it muddy? Is it icy? Slippery? Is it dry? Is everything good to go? Doesn't matter where you walk, you're not going to slip. Or is it February and we just got half-inch ice? Building structural integrity. Think about what kind of building it is. If it's a concrete or not. A prime example is we have some really big buildings that are going in. They're the tilt-up concrete slab buildings. So whenever we think about those, or we think about cinder block buildings or brick buildings, we think about spalling. Spalling happens, obviously, we all know that from extreme heat. So look for where you're going to set up that building. Strongest points of the building are usually the corners. So if you have a building that's one of our older buildings and it's a brick, metal expands when it's hot, so look for bulging walls, look for cracked concrete, look for mortar starting to pop out, right? So know the structural integrity of the building. Wind direction and speed. talked about that upwind advantage whenever we're ventilating a window. Always be upwind. Okay? Also know if it's really windy outside and if that wind is swirling. So just know what kind of wind condition you're going into. Whenever you're on their way to the call, take a look outside. Are the trees bending over because it's so windy? Or is it a light breeze? Is it somewhere in the middle? Is there no wind at all? So whenever, if you're tasked with throwing a ladder, just have that in the back of your mind. Is the wind hit me in the face, and where do I need to set this ladder up? And then the appropriateness of the chosen ladder, you know, about size, length, all that. And then structural features of the building. Position of the ladder is position the ladder properly for its intended use. And then place the butt the proper distance from the building. Place butt proper distance from the building for easy, safe climbing. So that just talks about that angle, 70 to 75 degrees. Basically, you should be able to stand here like this, hold your arm straight out, and you should hit that rung right there in front of you. That's 75 degrees. Ventilation, talked about that. Up on the side of the window, tip even with the top of the window. Used when firefighters need to climb in or out of narrow windows or direct hose strings into them. So place that tip at the top. If you gotta kind of shimmy into a window, kind of imagine that, or rescue, tip slightly below the windowsill, and then wedge tip under the sill for stability. Kind of jam it up in there. And then extend the ladder 2 or 3 rungs above the sill if there is room to permit the tip to project into the window and allow room for entry and rescue beside it. It's going to be a tall window. I'll just say that right now. It's probably going to be at least 6 foot tall window, maybe a 5'8" window or something like that. It's going to have to be a tall window. Ladder placement guidelines. Place ladders near at least 2 points on different sides of the building. Avoid placing over openings where they might be exposed to heat or direct flame. Take advantages of strong points in the building construction. Raise ladder directly in front of the window when it is used as a support for a smoke ejector. So you can raise that ladder all the way to the top part of the windowsill, lash in a smoke ejector, but now we have these nice fancy battery operated fans that we can carry inside and push the smoke out rather than pull it. And then avoid placing ladders where they may contact overhead obstructions. That second one, avoid placing over openings where they might be exposed to heat or direct flame. So think about if there's a fire on the first floor, you don't want to set a ladder up that the fire's going to be lapping out, going up the siding, and then hitting that ladder, exposing it to heat or direct flames. Avoid placing it on uneven trains or soft spots. So avoid it when you can. We talked about how to overcome it if we have to. Avoid placing in front of paths of travel. So if you have a tight, narrow alleyway between 2 buildings, be cognizant of the fact that that might have to be used to deploy a hand line. Avoid placing on top of sidewalk, elevator, trackers, or deadlights. I looked up deadlights. Deadlights are those little lights that are like in sidewalks, and basically they're like a dusk dawn light in the sidewalk, and then they illuminate the outside of the building. So when you place it, just make sure you're not placing it on top of a glass one, because you start climbing the ladder, the glass pops and your ladder falls over. And then do not place against unstable surfaces, aka deadlights. Make sure if you're in a rock, gravel area, get it down to a solid dirt, not just rock. Distance of ladder butt from the building establishes an angle between ladder and ground. Okay? We're looking at this angle right here. If ladder is too close, its stability is reduced. Excuse me. If ladder is too far, its load carrying capacity is reduced, but it has more tendency to slip. Meaning, here's your target. Here's the ground. You don't want to set up a long ladder like that. There's a potential for this to kick up this way, and then also you put your weight right here, that ladder's going to then bend like that. Okay? Optimum angle with certain exceptions is 75 degrees. We talked about that. And then to determine the proper distance of the butt from the building, divide the working length of the ladder by 4. 16-foot roof ladder. Say we got to go to the 1-story roof, right? 16 divided by 4 is 4. Our roof ladder that ladder will or is that climbing angle? Approximately 75 degrees. That's that angle right here.
I'm good at one.
I'm alright. Is that coffee?
You beat me to it, yeah.
What factors affect ground ladder placement? You guys need a coffee break? You sure? Cool. Yeah. What factors affect ground ladder placement? So we talked about ground stability, we talked about overhead obstructions, we talked about surfaces, and what kind of surface, is it soft, is it rocky, is it slippery? Where we need to place the ladder, are we going to your wrist, etc. You guys good? You want you bringing some back for everybody?
Yeah.
I'm good, thank you though. What locations in your jurisdiction may be present? Unique challenges to firefighters when raising ladders.
That's a good question.
There's one building in particular in House One's areas that you guys go to.
Parker?
Bingo. That is the one building that I think of whenever I've seen this slide. Was because Brad described by Briarcrest, whenever you enter the building, what floor are you
Well, I was
entering?
about to say the floors are all messed up, so that's confusing. Especially if you have an interior crew, especially if they're in a mayday scenario and they're wanting to soft rescue and they claim they're, I don't know, they read a door number that says they're at 246, they're on the main floor. Or something like that. You might have the crew set up a ladder on the trailer side of the second story window, and that's one window too high.
Absolutely. Next, we were just talking about Briarcrest. To answer this question, what locations in your jurisdiction may present unique challenges to firefighters when raising ladders? Briarcrest was the one that we kind of agreed on. Because of how it is from the Charlie side, there's 4 stories from the Charlie side, I believe.
Yeah.
And getting that egress around to that Charlie side is gonna be kind of difficult. Describe ways to secure a ground ladder. Objective 4, here we go. Lock extension ladder locks before placing the ladder against the structure. Okay, make sure your pawls are set, make sure they're good, make sure they're not free floating. You start climbing the ladder and you're gonna slip around all of them. Tie the halyard of the extension, clove-hitch, we watched that little video, right? Tie that halyard to that little clove-hitch there with the safety in the center of the ladder rung. And then heel or secure the ladder with a rope to a firm object nearby. So, when we secure a ground ladder, 3 things. Boom. Please make sure the pawls are locked, make sure that they're in place. Tie the halyard off, make sure it's not gonna come in, even if the pawls fail, your halyard's gonna get you. And then secure with the heel or butt, and then tie the tip of the ladder to a firm object nearby. Healing a ladder, you need to wear complete PPE, that includes everything. Helmet, gloves, boots, coat, pants.
SCBA.
If you're on fire ground, yes. And be alert for falling into objects or debris. So whenever you're healing the ladder, debris or object or debris. Debris. Right, that's plural. Debris is plural. It's true, that's debris. Stay alert for firefighters ascending the ladder. So if you're butting the ladder on the outside of the ladder, look up. If you butt the ladder on the underside, you're pulling in, you then have to look up like this. That could be glass on your face, last time you turn out coat. Stand on this side of the ladder, look up the ladder, you can see everything that's coming at you. Healing beneath the ladder. See? If there were to be something that were to fall, it would go right on top of his head. Not saying that that's the wrong way to do it, sometimes that might be the only way you can do it. But be cognizant of what could happen and what the risks are going to get that way. Stand with the feet shoulder width apart, grasp beams about eye level, and pull ladder toward the building. Look forward, not up, and some of us climbing. On the outside, that's what I'm talking about right here. You can watch your people climb, you can watch everything that's going on up there, and you can be ready for whatever's going to happen. But it says if we stand on the outside, we chalk the butt in, place toes against the butt spur, like this guy does, or bottom rung of the ladder, and then we grasp the beam to press the ladder against the building. Basically just keeping it in place. When possible, tie that to a fixed object. Prevents the ladder from pulling away from the building, so you can work on it like we talked about at the very beginning. If we have a firm ladder that is secure, we're going to work better because we don't have to worry about that ladder slipping up from underneath us. And it frees personnel who will be holding onto the ladder. We use a rope hose tool, a rope, comma, hose tool, or safety strap to tie the ladder to a fixed object. So anything, webbing, lashing, a rope, a little rope halyard looking piece of webbing that's about this long. Anything that you can get your hands on to tie that off. Just a quick clove hitch or a couple overhand knots should get it. What are two methods of securing your ground ladder? Yep. Tie it in, butt the ladder. Alright, methods for raising and lowering a ladder. Ladder type and size. So our raising methods or things that we have to consider whenever we raise a ladder is the ladder type. Is it a single section ladder? Is it an extension ladder? And then the number of personnel that are available. Are we short-handed? Is weather conditions preventing other guys getting there? Is it House 2's area where we have a mile-long driveway? We have to throw, the first in truck has to throw a ladder, or the second in truck has to throw a ladder, and it's only one guy doing it. Okay, and it's gonna be a minute for the other guys to make the hike up the road. Weather and topography kind of go hand in hand with us too. So when we transition from carry to raise, it is not necessary to place the ladder flat on the ground prior to raising. So we can go straight from our shoulder into a raise. We don't gotta set it down. Everybody prepare to lift, blah, blah, blah. We're just gonna dive that butt right into the ground, and we're gonna raise it. Only the butt needs to be on the ground, and the transition should be done in a smooth, continuous motion. Right here. Butt end up against the building. This is a beam raise. Closest butt spur to him, he drives into the ground. You think this is gonna be harder or easier to do on concrete or grass?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Grass.
Grass. So show. You'll get that ladder if you don't have your balance right. Not your balance, but if you don't have the ladder balance right, that ladder will start skipping across the concrete. Not just on the beam raise, but on the flat raise too. Right here. Flat raise, beam raise. Raising it on the beam, raising it flat. And that is, in fact, the Charlie said. Ladders 35 feet or longer typically require at least 3 firefighters. Or 1.5 grads.
Not bad. How much one of those weigh? I don't know. What is a 35-foot ladder weigh?
Well,
It's gotta be up there.
if you measure this with a marker,
It's out of it. Yeah, that's probably scale.
I'm not sure, but I can get back to you with that answer. I definitely will.
I didn't know if you don't talk real.
No, I don't, but I'll look that up and I'll find out for you. How about that? It's 59. It's 59. 4 firefighter raise is used for larger, heavier extension ladders, and the flat raise is normally used. Procedures smaller to 3 firefighter raise, except placement of personnel. So, the heavier the ladder, you're going to use more firefighters. Flat raise, we usually use a flat raise because there's more area to grab. Flat raise on a bigger ladder with 4 firefighters. Think of a bird's eye view. Big long ladder. You have a firefighter here, 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 here. We're gonna call this the butt end. Here's the building. These 2 guys are gonna lift. These 2 guys are gonna heel the ladder, and that ladder's gonna go boom. Real nice up high like. Procedure similar to 3 firefighter raise, except placement of personnel. 3 firefighter raise. Talk about that real quick. It'll be very similar. 3 firefighters. You have 2 lifting, 1 healing. Okay. What methods can be used to raise a ground ladder with either 1 or 2 firefighters? Beam or flat. Right? Flat. Both beams are going to be on the ground. Beam raise.